皆さんこんにちは。テックフロンティアの高山です。本日はシンガポールのジリカという会社に来ています。実はですね、僕ずっと前からファンでして、しつこく連絡をして、もうそのままシンガポールに来てからもういるので、とにかくアポを取ってくれないかとお願いしたところ、創設者のシンシュウさんにお時間をいただきました。ではいろいろとお話を今日聞いてみたいと思います。
Sure. Zilliqa is a new public blockchain. So what we want to do with this new blockchain is really to provide a platform for high throughput decentralized applications. So that means, people can build applications on top of Zilliqa, and then they can process, let's say, hundreds or even thousands of transactions every second, and with decentralization and security provided. The team currently is based in Singapore. So we have a small team, but with very diverse background in terms of skills, technology, and experience. Sure. Yes. For me, I'm mainly from the technical background. So I used to work on cybersecurity. So when I was doing my PhD in National University of Singapore, so I was looking at how can we make this web platform, this web where you have web pages, web applications, different services. How can you make them more secure by carefully redesigning the whole architecture? And then after a PhD research, I moved on to a research lab established by University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Again, the focus was on cybersecurity, but I was looking at the software that controls larger scale systems such as smart grid, transportation systems, Internet of Things, things like that. Then that was sort of before I developed personal interest into blockchain, until I got an opportunity to work with this company on developing very high throughput scalable blockchain in a more permission setting. So that was how the story started. Actually, it's not just me, from cybersecurity. So many of our team members are from the cybersecurity background. So that's why when we designed this, the blockchain protocols for Zilliqa, security has always been, a primary focus. So you can have many ways to run a very fast blockchain, but then again, to run a fast blockchain without sort of compromising the security properties, that's a real challenge we're addressing. I mean, degree is not really the main thing, but if you look at their background of their previous research and projects, it's really interesting. So if you look at Yao Qi, he's our blockchain architect. What he started in the past few years actually, was really how do you design very secure and efficient peer-to-peer network. And if you look at that, that's really the foundation of today's blockchain. And then he of course also started how do we run very efficient consensus protocol. That's again, it's a bare bone protocol for modern blockchain architecture. And then another team member, Amrit, he also has a very interesting background. So he is more from the crypto side, so that's why he's our leader in the crypto design. But he also looked at blockchain crypto, for example Monero. So Monero is all about how do we make transactions more privacy preserving. But then he started what are the pros and cons of the scheme there, how do we make improvements. So if you look at our team, we're really a team of very strong technical background. We understand what we are building, and we understand what are the pros and cons of different approaches. So I have to first bring up this interesting professor. His name is Pradeep Saxena. So he did his PhD in UC Berkeley. Of course, he's also from the cybersecurity field. So he is pivotal in terms of forming this team. So almost all the team members here at Zilliqa, of course, are working with him, but have worked with him in the past in one capacity or another. So for instance, if you look at this sharding idea, which makes blockchains very scalable, it all started from a research paper by Pradeep Saxena and his PhD student then Loy Lu. So if you know Loy, he's actually the CEO of Kuiper Network. So it started in that research lab. I was there in the lab as well because of course, I was also working with Predict, but on other things. But then, we always know each other. And then Predict Saxena founded a company later on with another two co-founders, Giza Motivala and Max Cantelier. And then I joined this company, of course, to start to, sort of more, commercialize this blockchain idea, this scalable blockchain idea into trials as a permissioned blockchain. And then, the technology gets more mature, more people start to be invited to join the team. And then Amrit and Yaoqi, they are all, people working with Predict, in their research lab. And then gradually have more people joining the team. So that's why we started to think about, whether that's the limit of our technology. It's clearly not, because in a private or permissioned blockchain setting, you have about 30 nodes or 50 nodes. But that's not big enough. I mean, with our scalability technology, we can really scale up to thousands or even tens of thousands of nodes. That's where we can unlock our potential. So that's why we started this public project, Zilliqa. That's where we are now. Yeah, I mean, so if you look at today's blockchain, I think they are revolutionary. So they have changed the landscape entirely. So it provides many opportunities for business use cases and even for ways to do fundraising. But then if you look at one specific aspect, which is throughput. So what does it mean? That means how many transactions, for example, payments, they can process every second. So this is sort of a bottleneck here. Today, they can process roughly on average about 7 to 10 transactions, or slightly higher, but that's the range, 10 transactions a second. But many applications do require much higher throughput in terms of thousands of transactions a second. So that is sort of the key problem Zilliqa comes in to solve. It was a brief move, I would say. We would love to add something onto today's blockchain, such as Ethereum. So we did some analysis and we try to understand or estimate how much effort would be required to sort of retrofit the existing blockchain without breaking all the compatibility, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. But then, unfortunately, the result of our analysis was it's just not feasible. You sort of can't do some small tweaks here and there to make the blockchains very scalable without sort of breaking the existing support for existing apps. So we say, okay, maybe the only thing we can do is to start a clean new code base to start a new blockchain. But as I said, it's a big move. You have to face many challenges ahead of us. So, things happen slightly later. For example, CryptoKitties, when people were playing that game, the network became very slow.
Yes.
But, we sort of saw that even beforehand. We do think scalability or, the lack of high throughput is a problem. It's a problem that prevents many interesting apps to be moved onto the blockchain. So from the user's perspective, yeah, they are seeing the network is slow, and then when you run ICOs, sometimes you have to compete with others to get your transactions in. So that are the sort of examples of problems they see. But at the higher level, really, we need to have a high velocity platform for this kind of decentralized apps. And I do believe once we have a platform ready, we are going to sort of enable many new and interesting applications on top of blockchain that we have not even imagined today. There are many ways to improve the scalability of public blockchains. So, for instance, one popular direction nowadays is to have something called stated channel, or if you want to see examples, which is the Lightning Network or the Reader Network or the Trinity for the Neo blockchain. At the high level, the idea is sort of move some of the transactions from on-chain to off-chain. And then they can really get very high throughput. They can get even hundreds of thousands of transactions every second. And that's really good for payments because today's on-chain payments is number one slow and number two really expensive. So these are sort of the benefits of having side channels like this solutions. But again, these are side channels, they are off-chain. People have to understand they don't have the same level of security and decentralization or immutability or transparency. They're off-chain now. What Zilliqa tries to provide is an on-chain solution. That means on the blockchain itself, we can get very high throughput with the same level of security and decentralization you expect a blockchain to have. And that provides a much much more efficient foundation to build the apps. And again, we can sort of pair with these side channels. That doesn't prevent us from pairing with side channels to make even ultra fast payments. On-chain transactions means the traditional transaction. Think about you are making a transfer of Bitcoin from you to your friends, for example. That's sort of the traditional on-chain transactions. And then the good things about such transactions are they are on the blockchain, so anyone can verify. You can't easily tamper with it, and then it's always there. You can't change it. The cons are sometimes it's slow. It takes a few confirmations, and then sometimes the transaction fee may be very high. If you look at this sort of off-chain solutions, it can be very fast because you don't have to go through the so-called consensus process. So this consensus process is really about trying to get an agreement among all the nodes. But then if you have off-chain payment channels, you don't have to do that. So you can do things much faster. But again, it's not like every single payment in these channels will be put onto the blockchain immediately, and then it's just different. You don't have that immutability. That means people can never change. It's chain up. It's no longer like that. And then you also have some other issues you have to consider because you have to put some deposit or collateral, things like that. So liquidity may be affected a little bit. So these are sort of the pros and cons you need to weigh in. This year. Yeah. So it's just about a month. Actually, we released our source code, which is a very interesting event. So people now can start looking at our code, seeing what we are doing every day. So it's all public. We don't have another repository. It's all there publicly. And we are testing very hard on our testnet. So we want to make sure this is going to be very robust. People can sort of play with it before we will properly release it. And in terms of partnership, we are very sort of cautious on this. So we want all our partnership announcements to have very concrete sort of plans. Sometimes, forgive us, we can't talk too much about our concrete plans because of sometimes our partners want to have some confidentiality. But again, when we announce a partnership, that means we have something in place. So for example, we are working very closely with Mindshare. So we are strengthening our partnership even. So we have very concrete steps now on what we are going to deliver. So things are moving actually quite fast at this moment. So very likely we will have a concrete sort of a POC project by the middle of the year. And we are also working with some other technology companies to provide a more comprehensive solution. Because if you look at blockchain, it's really an ecosystem. You need many things. You need on-chain scalability. You need sort of privacy, and you need very efficient storage. You need very convenient APIs for users to build apps. So all sorts of things need partnerships. That's why we also treasure these things. But we are very careful. So we only choose partners who can really sort of help each other in terms of benefiting the general community. So the general problems that are plaguing the ad tech space, for example, fraud, or sometimes you have basically no confidence in the content, where your ads are shown. So some of these problems can actually be solved by blockchain because if you look at blockchain, it's really about bringing different parties who are not fully trusting each other, but bring them together on the same platform where they can try to agree on something. So sometimes it's hard to agree on that thing, but then blockchain really provides a means for people to try to reach that consensus. So this is sort of the angle we're going forward with Mindshare. We are really grateful to our partner Mindshare, and we really admire them because this is sort of a quite established marketplace. But then they really want to look at this cutting edge technology to see what technology can bring in to sort of revolutionize the whole ecosystem. So Zilliqa has two aspects of strength here. So number one is, as you mentioned, it's about throughput, because there are so many ads being shown every day, and you really need a very fast blockchain to keep up the pace with it. And the second aspect that Zilliqa will be very unique in is security. Because if you think about, you use smart contracts to do the real transactions in the advertisement space, you need to make sure that these smart contracts are correct and they are secure. Otherwise, people will lose money, and then this thing will not happen. Right. So that's why our very secure smart contract layer in Zilliqa will be able to help that as well. But that is still work in progress. Financial services sector, in terms of, for example, payments and trading, all these things, and shared economy, rights management. So these are some of the examples we're looking at and exploring at this moment. But again, we do not have to say we will sort of deploy a solution for existing enterprise. I think the app developers can be more creative. They may feel like, okay, Zilliqa is a cool tool, but they can build something new. They can build something that will sort of disrupt even existing applications. That's the interesting part. Yeah, let's be very honest. Building distributed systems is very challenging. I mean, you always run into issues and problems that you did not expect. It's quite different from developing a single PC application. Let's say, if you write a calculator, that's it. The behaviors are deterministic. But then blockchain is really about distributed systems. That means you have a network of different computers. Some computers may have some problem, they may leave the network, they may get stuck for a moment, then you run into all these problems because your system sort of is related to all these small components in this network. That just took us longer time to sort of debug and find the problems and fix the problems. So that's at the sort of development level. And then if you look at sharding is a very hard problem. We have a solution that will make transactions working, but then again, how does it work with our smart contract language? So we have some ideas, we have some solutions, but we still don't know which solution is going to be the most efficient in terms of performance. So these are still challenging problems ahead of us, I would say. The bigger plan for 2018 is really to roll out the mainnet. So before that, we will have to do several versions of the testnet rollout so that people can try and test it, making sure it's working as we expect it to be. Then we will develop our smart contract language. We have the high-level idea, but we really need to nail down all the details and develop the language into code. And hopefully by the end of 2018, we will also have some anchor applications so that we can showcase what is this high throughput platform really is about. It's difficult for us to plan, let's say, a 5-year thing. It's in the crypto space, things are just moving so fast. Every year it's like already 10 years.
You were
Of
there
course,
before, right?
yeah, I really love Tokyo.
Yes.
I've been there a few times, and then the weather is a little bit cold, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy communicating with the Japanese people. They're very smart, they're sharp. They always they're not afraid of giving you good suggestions, I would say. And I like the food there.
That's nice.
I like the alcohol.
Oh, you like the alcohol?
Yeah.
What's your favorite alcohol?
I like sake.
Okay. Well, hopefully, when you come next time, we can have, a presentation like you did last time, and followed by sake.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. So I think we are very fascinated about the Japanese market because we heard that the regulation now is very liberal in terms of allowing crypto assets to grow. And then it really gives companies like us who are focusing on blockchain technologies an opportunity to do many things there. So we do hope we can find real opportunities where we can build interesting use cases to demonstrate this kind of high throughput apps. And we're actively exploring such opportunities. So if you or any of your audience have any interesting suggestions or ideas or connections to make, please feel free to reach out to me.
セキュリティをしっかり担保した上で高速処理ができるブロックチェーンをゼロから構築するというのは非常に難しいことです。また分散型のシステムを作ることが従来のソフトウェアやアプリ開発とは違ってどれだけ大変なのかという話を聞いて、改めてサイバーセキュリティとブロックチェーンの領域に詳しい技術者が揃っているジリカチームの頼もしさを実感しました。現在1400種類以上のブロックチェーンプロジェクトがある中、話題先行型のものや営業トークだけで実態が伴っていないものは多く、近い将来その大半が消えるのは容易に想像できますが、ジリカチームが結成された経緯を聞いて、とても安定感があるプロジェクトだなと思いました。熱い思いと勢い勝負のベンチャーとは異なり、ジリカはあらゆる選択肢を徹底的に検証した上で進むべき道を進んでいる。まさに将来、本当の意味で実用性のある様々なアプリの基盤を構築するには、必要不可欠なスタンスだと感じました。そしてシンシュウさん。とてもフランクで優しく、知性と好奇心に満ち溢れている方でした。また、何よりも印象的だったのは、ジリカのブロックチェーンの活用方法について話していた時です。シンシュウさんは何回かにわたって、ジリカが完成した時に、今自分たちが想像すらできないようなアプリが作られることを信じていると言っていました。僕はシンシュウさんがずっとセキュリティ畑にいらしたので、てっきりブロックチェーンの技術的な側面にしか興味がないと思い込んでいたのですが、完全に間違っていました。シンシュウさんは他の人たちが思う存分クリエイティビティを発揮してくれることを何よりも望んでいるように感じました。様々な役者たちが何の制限もなく自己表現できるよう理想の舞台作りに徹している。まさに誰よりもクリエイティビティを愛し、ブロックチェーンの可能性を信じてそのポテンシャルを実現させようとしている縁の下の力持ちです。近い将来、シンシュウさんを驚かせるような斬新なアイディアを持つベンチャーがジリカのブロックチェーン上でアプリを開発することを期待しています。